everyone, Phil Turek here. Gosh, so much going on. The title of this episode is going to be Transitions, and it deals with politics and the government in the United States, again, as I've been doing lately, and my Mars project, of course, trying to use Mars as a tool for making social change here on Earth, particularly in the United States. All right, so here we go. In the future, there will be a vibrant, self-sustaining human civilization on Mars. The high road to Mars is one built on a foundation of gracious professionalism, the bedrock ethos of the first robotics competition. The earthbound dreamers of today, who are working to open the high road to a future Martian civilization, are the ancestors of tomorrow's Martians. I'm Phil Turek, one such ancestral Martian. Look at what I'm trying to do by creating simulated Martian cultural ambassadors to act as positive social influencers to somewhat depolarize society here in the United States. Imagine how much even better it would be if the United States were to bring real Martian ambassadors here. Okay, Transitions. Title of this episode, Season 2, Episode 13. A long time ago, someone encouraged me to go out and buy this book. The title of it is Transitions by Dr. William Bridges. And it's for people who have to cope with change in their lives. And you could think, there's good change. Oh, I got accepted to Cornell. Or bad change. Oh, my grandfather died. And what this, psychologist, I suppose, ends up advocating in this book is that you do a three-step process. And so in step one is you look backwards and you cherish that which is being left behind. So you're going to immigrate to the new world and, you have a going away party with your closest friends and neighbors. And you take the time to enjoy that which you are going to be leaving behind. Then you go into the neutral zone, and that's a part where you have shed your previous identity, you're out in the wild, you're between the dreams of the past and what will become the dreams of your future, and you're getting new experiences and you're becoming aware of, a different world that you are now passing through. And then finally, third phase is you begin to look forward again and you embrace new dreams and you build a new life, a new existence afterwards. Okay, so really good. Thank you to the person who recommended this to me back in the last millennium. But we as a government are going through that right now. So in my last episode, I talked about how, okay, I'm going to go participate in the No Kings protest. It was this past Saturday. So today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. And I went to Huntington Beach near the pier. Huntington Beach is a very strong MAGA tribal community. Their entire city council is pure MAGA, and Orange County is deep red in general compared to, yeah. So, anyways, there we are. And there's our signs, and we were very happy. The police estimated there were 2,700 protesters. The population makes that work out to be 1.4% of the population. In my last episode, I pointed out the research shows if you have 3.5% of the population doing actively participating in trying to make a change, and you work at it in a reasonable time scale, like within a year, change will 50% chance that change will successfully happen. Okay, so 1.4% is a nice start. Now, here's another, and by the way, that was my wife and me. Here's another image. I'm just looking towards the pier, and I can recognize one of the characters that we encountered here. And this next one is a little short video clip I shot, just 20 seconds. Here we go. Okay, so a few things I want to point out. One, this went on for hours. And the people who were in their cars going by honking and displaying signs, were they part of the estimated 2,700 people that the police estimated for the rally itself? If not, then, it seems like we're well above our 3.5% threshold already of people who really want change to take place within the government of the United States. Okay? What else? Oh, yeah. So one guy was honking his horn and then honk honk and then no change. So it's nice to have a call and response with the audience, and I kept trying to think of something to create. I haven't yet. And then there was one character who was in the first photograph and a little bit in this video clip, and he was trying to resurrect chants from the 1960s. Amusing, but they weren't really appropriate and didn't fit here. But he tried. Okay, so very interesting. Oh, one more statistic. I saw yesterday that it was estimated that 5 million people nationwide participated in the No Kings protest. And that works out to be like 1.47% of the population. So very similar numbers between locally in Huntington Beach and nationally on the U.S. scale. So interesting and true and very exciting. But what's next, right? Okay, let's move on. So there was a parade in Washington that kind of instigated this No Kings protest, and the king was all at the request of our leader, who wanted to celebrate his birthday but doesn't want to admit it's his birthday after a while. So okay, now in May 1865, a month after the president was assassinated, a month after the end of the Civil War, President Johnson decided that the nation needed to have a parade down the mall over there in Washington, D.C. And what I want to point out is what was observed about the different armies that took place. So there's the Army of the Potomac under General Grant, there's the Western armies under General Sherman and under General Meade. Okay? And here's what, you should read this quote. I should read it too, maybe. This is from General Chamberlain. He was a hero of Gettysburg on the Union side. And it just, notice the difference, the distinctive difference between the Army of the Potomac and the Western armies. I could read this to you. The part that stuck out to me is that the Westerners, their stride as they march was 6 inches longer than the stride for the Army of the Potomac. And, the last sentence here or two. Eastern men wore close-fitting skull cap. The Western men, the soft slouch hat. The Easterners were exact, prim, and stiff, and the Westerners were easy and carefree, independent, and pioneerish. And then later, referring to when they were bivouacked, Chamberlain wrote, there seemed to be a settled dislike to us, blatant at least among Sherman's men. In a certain class, their manner was contemptuous and bullying. Now, why does it excite me? Just note this distinction here. Because it just emphasizes we were never one nation under God, indivisible. We've always been a federation of 11 distinct American nations. Okay, so I'm going to try to use that phrase now, American nations. Once again, here's the map showing down to the resolution of county level, kind of. So all the little things there are county outlines. They actually have a higher resolution map that shows what each county actually maps out as. But here it is by, smooth over to a regional area. So the Civil War was basically between Yankeedom and the Deep South, and the armies showed the distinctiveness that existed back then in 1865 that still exists today, whether you want to admit it or not. When the government wanted to deport migrants off to El Salvador, they went and snatched someone from Yankeedom and then took them to a judge in the Deep South who didn't even listen to the lawyers and said, no, off, off he goes. The government, is going to ship them out of the country. End of story. And that's because that's their cultural nation that they're part of. Okay, moving on. Huh. 35 years ago, same time as Robert Zubrin came up with his Mars Direct plan, I came up with my Earth Mars Ambassador idea. And I'd been asked, actually by the same person who, had me read this book or encouraged me to go get the book. Uh, she once implored me to do something. And in response, I came up with my concept here that says, okay, we're going to use Mars as a tool for making change in the United States. And how do we address all the different issues that confront us? And the idea was we educate this American. Best one goes to Mars and lives there for a couple of years and then gets joined with some more technology and equipment. And finally, when he or she comes back to the United States, while they're acclimating to Earth's gravity, they're quarantined. So let's put them in a modified railroad car and have them tour the United States on Amtrak routes. Okay, now, it was all part of a jigsaw puzzle that I built over 10 pages, describing to the Vice President of the United States and the White House National Space Council how this would work and what its benefits were. Okay. So, one issue that I wanted to address is the fact that even back then, 35 years ago, NASA was being micromanaged by Congress not to expand the space frontier, but to ensure money flowed to certain congressional districts. Okay, so it's a jobs program. And I wanted to do something that would preoccupy Congress so that they wouldn't micromanage NASA and interfere quite so much with this mission. And here are two paragraphs from that 10-page document that I wrote. I dug up a copy of it. It was in storage. Oh, I love this thing. But I don't have time to, explain it all over again to you. So the route that Congress comes up with will be a convolution of the locations of America's scenic wonders and American politics. That's exactly my intention. The route will bear the indelible mark of the workings of the American political system, which is the finest democracy in the world. Future students of American politics will take courses that delve into the ferreting out the behind the scenes interplay of power that led to a particular zig or zag in the final route selected for the educated American. The senator in this state had to support the bill sponsored by the senator in that state to get the train to pass through this congressional district. But that meant that, dot, dot, dot. Yep, that's our system. Okay, so from my point of view, why am I showing this to you now? This is step one. I'm looking backwards and I'm doing closures. This was my dream. And for 35 years, I've been nurturing it, much like Robert Zubin has been nurturing his Mars Direct dream. And uh, I taught this, for 30 years. I taught high school science. Once a year at least, I would present this to the students that I taught. And, it's my heart and my soul, my dream. But I have to say goodbye to it because the government has changed so much here that this is now obsolete, anachronistic, I don't know, obsolete. Um, we no longer have a functioning political system where the two main political parties can have a friendly rivalry. And, you know, so I'm sad, right? But let's move on. Again, one of those articles kind of influential on me from the past week. So when you have open democracy like we had, then crime is kind of low. The government is doing its job. It's stopping the bad guys from ruining our lives. And then the same thing can be said when you have a very absolute authoritarian government, such as North Korea is the classic example. They don't have high crime rates there. the government will be very effective in shutting down individual crime, at least. Okay, so when one government is on its way out and it's being replaced by another government, when it's in transition, that's when civil violence goes way up, particularly with political overtones. We're in that stage now. And the author of this, so this was I'm not sure how I refer to her, but a scholar at Princeton University, and she was being interviewed. And this is from a transcript that I encountered this week. There's the link. And she's pointing out that we are now in the civil violence with high political overtones. So we're in transition, whether we like it or not. And basically, no, most of us don't like it. But this is why I had to say goodbye to EMA, my Earth Mars Ambassadors program. We don't have that open democracy, so the rivalry can't occur under current conditions. Can you see current 2025 Democrats and Republicans in a friendly, competitive rivalry about mapping out train routes across the United States for Martians coming to Earth? Wow, can't happen today. So, here's a quote from that woman. Her name is Kim. And to me, this just is that neutral zone. So Nova Terra Legatus is the name one of the interns came up with over at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center when I was there as a chaperone and sharing with them this plan, and they came up with this name to replace Earth Mars ambassadors. So it means the same thing, New World Ambassador, ambassadors from the New World. But I want to just read her quote to you guys. And this is from Kim. I think we have to rethink our party system. That's going to be a big struggle. But right now we've got two parties that aren't functioning particularly well in times of crisis. We also have to rethink how to uncapture a captured court, which may mean doing things like changing the structure or rules of that institution. Sorry, typos on my part. And we have to think about how we run elections because right now Congress, the House in particular, hinges on only a few competitive seats across the entire country. So there are bigger issues at stake once we try to figure out how to just blunt this particular attack. I'm hoping that a lot of us are out in the streets blunting the attack, but I'm hoping also that a lot of us are thinking about what, if we get the chance, we replace this with so that this doesn't happen again. Okay, and the next slide is continuing this quote from her. But already I lit up a lot because this is what I've been observing and sharing about in previous episodes. Oh man, what's wrong with our two-party system? Oh yeah, okay. Well, there's gerrymandering, and then there's fairvote.org, ranked choice voting, multiple member districts. I've gone over that in past episodes. Uh, the High Court was could be reformed. The Biden administration worked out. He had a team put together an idea that said, what if you have the justices retire after 18 years? There's nine Supreme Court justices. Have each one have a transition to a new one every 2 years. So each presidential term will have two opportunities to put a judge on the Supreme Court instead of what was done. So thanks to Senator McConnell, uh, he basically blocked Obama from appointing a Supreme Court judge, which would have had a significant impact had it been allowed to happen. So, and then the third thing, let's see, elections, Congress. Okay, yeah. And here's more quoting from her. From Kim. I have some ideas about how to do that. I've worked on this in multiple countries. But this really has to be a collective conversation. This can't be something where one expert comes in and says, here's the right answer. This has got to be something we arrive at together. And so far, we have not had that conversation as a democratic country. What I think is that, yeah, from my point of view, here's the answer, ranked choice voting and this, okay. But the reality is, it's no good for me to be, the expert. I'm not. I'm an armchair expert. That's what I am. But for my changed Mars project, okay, Nova Terra Legatus, it has evolved. I'm not sure. Well, I guess Robert Zubrin's has evolved a little too, but mine has to now change to a new dream. And that dream, constrained by the reality, is a colony on Mars, ignoring what Elon Musk is claiming in his schedule, is so far in the future that it's not helpful now. To be helpful now, I'm transitioning to a project where I'm emphasizing creating an analog Martian community here on Earth. Oh man, uh, you know, I have to stop recording or pause. Okay, admittedly, I had to pause this for a moment. Kind of lost my train of thought, but where am I? So, my new Mars project, an analog community here to field test getting things right. So, creating a new civilization on Mars, a new nation state, our offspring, and trying to put the best features forward from our collective federation of American nations. Wow, so that's the current new project that I'm heading towards. And let's see, I still have a few things I want to share with you. So I thought this was pretty cool, something I read about. Here's some scary terms, new vocabulary. So first one is engineered reality, and that refers to our leader, number 47, who's able to basically create his own world that he lives in, where whatever he says is the truth. And that is amazing, but here's a way that he makes that happen, at least for himself. You have to filter out other things that we would refer to as objective reality. But step one, for example, now, okay, his goal right now, we believe, is to transition from an open democracy to probably a competitive authoritarian regime, which means there will still be a Democratic Party when it gets done. It will just be powerless. And there'll still be courts and there'll still be Congress, but all of that will be powerless. The only power will be concentrated in the top of the executive branch, period. End of story. So, one of the steps to get there is this four-step plan, this little dance that says, okay, first do something that's really scary, like having masked, unidentified guys just snatch people off the streets. That happened in the streets of New York City at first, and now, oh boy, doesn't matter if it's Father's Day, doesn't matter if it's, where, but people are being snatched. And then, but count on the cooperative adversary. So that's an adversary that doesn't really think through like a chess game strategy about how to respond. It's more like a knee-jerk reaction that this guy can count on that says, oh, they're going to get upset. They're going to protest. Maybe we can just egg them on enough, send in the Marines and National Guard to encourage them, basically to encourage them to become violent. And then step three is, oh no, you guys are, I'm the victim. You guys are endlessly picking on me. All I'm doing is my job. I'm trying to make, America great again. And then now you have the justification you need, the violence, step two there, to go ahead and nuke that target area in the name of retribution for being the victim. And what I found interesting is that it depends on which side you're on, which parts of this you actually see. So if you're on the left, shown by blue, if you're liberal, if you're progressive, it's these first two steps are the only two that you can see. And that is, oh man, you snatched that woman off the street. Uh, we need to get out on the streets and protest and stop the government. And if you're like the MAGA tribe, all you see is what's in red. And the story is, oh no, they're picking on our hero, our chosen one. He's just trying to do his job. And you guys are just endlessly persecuting him. Well, we're also victims. We're part of his tribe. And so, yes, he has our backing to just go and be our retribution on those lefties there, those radical lefties who are persecuting us all the time. So that's amazing. What do you do to uh, make this less effective? Oh boy. So we'd have to be more stoic than we've been on the people on the left, saying, okay, he snatched that woman off the street. Uh, but, so what can you do about it? Well, first of all, you should have voted. And if you didn't vote, maybe you should start rethinking your life choices. Voting is something, actually, let me even just clear this slide out for a moment. I think it's the last one I want to show. There's nothing after this. Boop, right? Okay. So we don't even need to see that anymore. I'll just go here. Okay. What to do about it? So step one is become stoic enough that you don't react with violence. So that means all the young people who like to go out and violate curfew, to set cars on fire, and throw Molotov cocktails at law enforcement. All of that is being the cooperative adversary that number 47 is eager to egg on and get you to do that. He needs that to justify going in with the Marines and setting up a police state. He needs that so that he can justify saying that the elections are not being free and fair, that there's an insurrection taking place, and therefore he remains in power indefinitely. Okay? So reining in the cooperative adversary is an issue. All right. Okay. One more time, I had to pause. So, where to go with this? Things to do to kind of stop going over to authoritarian or cooperative authoritarian. Uh, Vote. If you haven't voted, get into the habit of recognizing that it's a very sacred thing, like going to a wedding and making your vows. It's an obligation that you have as citizens. So I'm thinking that for my simulated Mars thing, have a competition, involve high school students or college students maybe, and have them work on basically noting all the flaws that are going on with our current government and system here in the US, and then tweaking it and saying, okay, what changes should be made, and then field testing them at this analog Mars base. So, like document the fact that, oh, there's a normal chain of command. And this is again from another article that says, okay, if there's civil disobedience or violence, you handle it local. And if they feel there's being swamped, then you go to the state. And if they feel they need the help, then they go to the federal government. Whereas right now, leader number 47 wants to claim that he's the only person who wields absolute power. Okay, so that's kind of a flaw. And then there's the silence of the generals. That was an article that pointed out that number 47 went and did a political rally at a military installation and had MAGA stuff for sale and okay, all that is a violation of the military code of conduct. The military is supposed to be professional, not political, and the generals and the officers in charge, every one of them should know it. Did they speak up? Most people have given up on trying to tell anything to number 47 because he doesn't listen to anything he doesn't want to listen to. And being told to not do a political rally at a military installation is clearly something he's not going to listen to. But what about the people who are responsible for uh, their men, the officers? They should speak up. And it would probably cost them their career, but they should still speak up because they should be defending the Constitution of the United States, not turning the military into a political muscle. So, what else? I have another note. Um, I need to get involved. So, you need to get involved too. So, we have a Huntington Beach City Council that is very strong MAGA, and twice a month they do city council meetings where the public can come and make comments. Now, last night was a meeting. I looked at the agenda. I didn't want to go. And I will try to get in the habit of attending these meetings so that I can start developing a voice to maybe try to influence them in a positive way. Think of it as a classroom that needs attention. I don't want to do this politics stuff. I want to do astrophotography and some traveling and other things. But my old dream is by the wayside. And so the new dream, evolving, is to have a successful analog Martian settlement that inspires the nation to make changes and reforms to our system, to do something that makes the world a better place. Okay, that's it for now. So much going on. Document these things so that you know what changes, improvements need to be made. All right, all for now.